Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 272 of our trip around the United States. This morning, we're getting things started off from here at the All Veterans Memorial in Emporia. And this is not just another Veterans Memorial, not that there really is such a thing. Here in Emporia, this is where Veterans Day came into being. What was originally Armistice Day was transferred into Veterans Day thanks to the lobbying of a local. So here we are, celebrating our veterans who have come and gone before us and the veterans who are still yet to come. For today's route, we are going to be covering 250 miles on the far eastern edge of Kansas. We'll be winding our way down from here in Emporia until about the time we hit Fort Scott, where we're going to turn in and head west to Yates Center, and then once again we're going to turn and head back southeast until we close out our day in Independence. As always, moving through the county seats, we are anticipating getting to see many of those county courthouses and outstanding veterans memorials just like this. I'm excited for today because it has a lot less miles than the last few days we've been covering, which means we can take things at a much easier pace because yesterday we were just moving way too fast for my taste. So let's get out there and see what today has in store for us in Kansas. Come on, let's go. We begin our day at the All Veterans Memorial in Emporia, dedicated on May 26th of 1991, making this the first memorial to honor all veterans from the Civil War through the Gulf War. There is quite a bit to see here at this beautiful memorial along the banks of the Cottonwood River as well, including a Huey helicopter, an M4A6 Sherman tank, the USS Oliver Hazard Perry anchor, and a Purple Heart Memorial, just to name a few. Emporia is also the founding city of Veterans Day. Prior to its founding, November 11th had been celebrated each year since 1926 as Armistice Day. During Armistice Day, people would honor the dead that were lost during World War I and celebrate the end of the fighting that occurred on November 11th of 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. By the 1950s, Armistice Day had lost a lot of its value since fighting had broken out once again across the European continent during World War II. Wanting to pay their respects to those lost not just in the World Wars, but in all wars, U.S. Representative Edward Reese of Kansas, backed by members of his community, proposed a bill that would change Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Congress approved the bill in 1954, with President Eisenhower signing the proclamation naming November 11th as Veterans Day. Once we finished up at the All Veterans Memorial, we really didn't spend too much time in Emporia at all. As the county seat of Lyon County, there's about 25,000 people living here, and plenty to see and do. But we got on the road immediately and began covering our miles. We flew down Interstate 35, only hopping off to make a quick find or two before hopping right back on again. That is, until we came across a peculiar Welcome To sign. I'm just gonna be honest with you here. This sign leaves me questioning how welcome I actually am. Our route brought us directly through the middle of Lynn County, into the county seat at Mound City, with a population of about 650 people. With only one geocache in town though, there was not much to keep us here. So it was not long at all until we made our way down the road to the Mine Creek Civil War battlefield. This state historic site is in memory of the only major battle of the Civil War fought in Kansas. On October 25th of 1864, 8,000 Confederates were defeated along the banks of Mine Creek. As we hopped from one city to the next today, we found ourselves chasing a series of urban geocaches. There were a great many spots where somebody would normally put a micro where we would come across a full-sized ammo can. While they were sometimes hidden out of sight, sometimes they were as plain as day. It was just a matter of figuring out how to retrieve them. As I was lowering the container down to add my name to the logbook, I couldn't help but wonder what the neighbors think when strangers come and do this in the yard. And once again, in front of a business on a busy street corner, somewhere where you would normally expect to find a mag key holder, we come across a full-size plastic container, completely loaded with swag. I thought it was rather unique how each item available for trade was contained within its own capsule. I love it when she just falls asleep and naps in the passenger seat for hours at a time. But then she ends up blocking my ability to steer the car, and she won't move either. Come on, we need to go. Come on, we gotta go. Come on, come on. We gotta move the car, come on. Come on, just a little bit. There we go. Thank you so much. Ai-chan continued to nap hard in the passenger seat as we made our way into Fort Scott, the county seat of Bourbon County with a population of about 7,500 people. The city began from the leavings of the Army garrison that was in place here from 1842 to 1853. The buildings left behind were made available for purchase to local settlers at a government auction held in 1855. The community was laid out a couple years later in 1857 and by 1860 was chartered as a city. The historic downtown area of Fort Scott has a very unique feel, built on mounds and mounds of bricks. In fact, by the 1950s, Fort Scott had been referred to as the City of Brick Streets because it had more brick streets per capita than any other city within the United States. Production on these bricks began all the way back in the 1880s due to a unique clay native to this area. It was discovered that Red Hill has some of the most dense clay found anywhere in the Midwest region, allowing for production of a denser, harder, and longer-lasting brick. Those sturdy bricks inevitably guided our feet to the 20th Century Veterans Memorial. Erected in 1990, the panels on the memorial list every veteran from Bourbon County that has served in the 20th century. The inscription reads, "In peace you served as our defender, in battle our protector, and in death a reminder that liberty is still our greatest strength." Dedicated in honor of all who served in the armed forces of our country in the 20th century. Fort Scott is, of course, named for the fort where it all began, which is now a National Historic Site. Established in 1842, like many forts of the time, Fort Scott was constructed to fulfill the promise of a permanent Indian frontier. With many Native American tribes removed from their homelands, the United States had made a promise to protect them from hostile attacks, not only from other settlers, but from other Native Americans as well. Fort Scott fulfilled two roles along the permanent Indian frontier. One was to maintain peace between the Indian tribes and the white settlers. The other was to help keep peace between the various Native American tribes scattered throughout the area. The fort allowed both objectives to be accomplished by providing a strong military presence along the road between Osage Land and the state of Missouri. By the late 1850s, though, westward expansion had continued well beyond Kansas, alleviating the need for a fort in the area. By 1852, the fort had been abandoned, along with the promise to provide a large, secure home for the Native American tribes in the area. There's no way that I can be the only one perturbed by this well. Everything else here at Fort Scott, perfectly symmetrical. But this well, definitely not centered in this enclosure. It is off to the right. So there, coming around the columns, it's really narrow. Here, coming around the columns, it's very wide. And it's not a subtle difference either. Now, when you've gone through all the effort of making everything else in your structure symmetrical, why the centerpiece? Continuing our territorial expansion, we make our way west into Iola, the county seat of Allen County with a population of about 5,400 people. Founded in 1859, the city is named for Iola Colborn, the mother of the first child born here. My primary goal here in town was to visit the virtual at the Veterans Memorial published back in May of 2002. It turns out that I was not the only one that had come here to do so though, as GCO pulled up right next to me at the same exact time. I doubt he realized I was there for the same reason as him though, because as he was busy getting the answers to the virtual, I was taking lots of video shots of all the amazing things this memorial has to offer. There has always just been something so powerful to me about seeing a veterans memorial that uses the pictures of veterans rather than just the names. It really helps to bring it home for those coming to pay their respects. With the end of our day quickly approaching, we slide into Yates Center, the county seat of Woodson County with a population of about 1,300 people. Founded in 1875, the city is named for the very generous Abner Yates, the original owner of the town. He donated much of the land that is now included in the Yates Center Courthouse Square District, including the block around the courthouse, land for churches, a city park, and a lot each for the first 2 children that were born in the town. This is also the only city in Kansas that was selected to be a county seat before there was even a single house or resident in attendance. By the time we hit the edge of the city limits, the Giver of Light was already beginning its rapid descent into the horizon once again. With just enough daylight still on our side, we made our way into one more cemetery for one more quick find before calling it a day officially. And so ends another day spent here on the road in Kansas in great company. Ai-chan and I began our morning in Emporia, just where we wanted to be. And once we pushed out of town, it actually ended up being a quieter day compared to what we normally have. There weren't as many county seats. There weren't as many interesting things to see along the way. What there were a lot of geocaches right where we needed them to be in the counties, and a lot of those located at cemeteries, which are always nice, relaxing, quiet places to make finds. And with the weather here starting to warm up, it was also a great spot each time to listen to the birds chirp and sing the song of spring coming our way. After running through that blizzard the other day and the cold spell we had immediately after that, I couldn't ask for more right now. We are going to start our morning from the very southeast corner of Kansas and begin working west along the southern edge of the state. We've only got a handful more days in the state to finish up, and we are making progress just where we want to be. Thank you guys for continuing to join us as we continue to make our way across the Sunflower State, one county and one page at a time. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.